Nuclear is a fairly new technology not only in Kenya but also in the continent. The government is, however, entering these uncharted waters with an eye on turning this alternative power source into a key cog in attaining its power-driven vision. But how far is the nuclear journey in the country? On our season premiere, we seek the answers from the chairman of the Nuclear Power and Energy Agency, Ezra Odhiambo. Hello and welcome to our sit-down interview today, where we feature none other than the chairman of the Nuclear Power and Energy Agency Board, Engineer Ezra Odhiambo. He's here with us. Thank you so much, sir, for making time for us, and what a pleasure it is to interview you. First things first, sir, what is the mandate of this particular ship that you steer, called the NuPEA?
Well, the Nuclear Power and Energy Agency has got the mandate of implementing the nuclear power program in Kenya. It also has the mandate of building the capacity within the energy and petroleum sectors. And then it also has the mandate for carrying out research in the energy sector in Kenya. Yeah.
Looking at it, nuclear technology is a fairly new concept in Africa with regards to electricity production. What particularly advised the need for the establishment of this agency, especially to pursue what I'll call uncharted waters?
Well, you see, when a country plans for its energy requirements, the plans normally look ahead 20, 30, 40, 50 years and beyond. And in the Kenyan situation, we've got several sources of energy. We've got geothermal, we've got hydro, we've got solar, we've got wind, and then there is biomass, and then of course there's the nuclear option. So when the forecasts were put in place, it looks like sometimes in the distant future, probably 15 years or more, we are going to run short of energy. Our geothermal will have been exhausted. The hydros, we probably have just about 2 or 3 more to come, then we'll exhaust the hydros. And then of course, we've got the option of using fossil fuel, either petroleum or coal, which also there are issues about them. Then there's the wind. The wind is not available everywhere. So there's limited capacity in terms of what we can get out of wind. And then, of course, then there's the solar. And when all this is considered together, then it looks like in the distant future, there will be need to supplement all these sources with the nuclear energy. Yeah.
Well, looking into the future, this appears to be a roadmap that the board that you chair, which is the topmost organ, especially within NuPEA, has in mind, and especially because it is a very critical period for you. Perhaps, first things first, how is it being the chair of the board? How has the job been so far?
Well, being the chair of the board is a very challenging assignment, given that the nuclear power program is something that takes a number of years to put in place. Because to implement a nuclear power program requires that several issues are addressed adequately in advance. And in the language of the nuclear sector, they are called infrastructure issues, and there are several of them. One, I'll just give a few examples. We've got to develop the capacity of Kenyans to plan, to be able to implement, maintain, and manage a nuclear power plant. So that is one of the issues that we've been working on and is ongoing. The next one is the electricity grid in the country. It has to meet certain standards before a nuclear power plant can be put onto the grid. So in that aspect, we also have a long way to go. We still have a lot of improvements to put on our grid. And along with that, nuclear power plants operate in very unique ways. One of them is that when you have a nuclear power plant, it could operate for probably about 18 months non-stop. But when it goes for maintenance, then you see it goes off the grid. And based on the technology of how grids are put in place, we cannot have a very big fraction of the power in a grid going off. Therefore, that means that we have to also improve on our power production so that the nuclear plant is not more than 10% of what we have on the grid. And all these have to be put in place well in advance before the introduction of the nuclear power plant.
You've mentioned nuclear generation of power being more or less like a long way to go.
Yeah.
But deep down, do you believe that this particular dream now, being part of the electricity grid, is achievable?
Well, you see, I really don't think we have a choice, because like I said earlier, we are going to exhaust our geothermal capacity. The hydro is just about gone. And solar and wind probably will not give us as much as we need. And therefore, in the distant future coming, we will definitely require to supplement our energy sources with the nuclear power. Yeah.
Globally, we've seen governments decide not to go the nuclear way, and actually governments or countries that were generating power or that were depending on nuclear to generate their power, such as Germany, decide enough is enough, let us shut down these power plants. Here locally in the country, what is the government's position in terms of nuclear energy development?
First of all, probably need to get the facts in their right perspective. Maybe it's only Germany that is considering shutting down their nuclear power plant. But even then, they are having real challenges in terms of coming with an appropriate energy mix to power their industrial development. Having said that, in Kenya, right now as we sit, the cost of energy in Kenya is very high.
Indeed.
And if we are to be part of the global economy, we have to bring down the cost of power. We have invested quite a bit on geothermal, which is reasonably cheap. But like I've said, that one will very soon run out of that. The hydros will also very soon run out of capacity because our rivers, most of it we've already utilized. Now then, the way forward is either we do solar and wind, but solar and wind also have their challenges, because you see, the solar is only available during the daytime. Nighttime, if you have solar, then nighttime you'll need some other source to power the industries and so on and so forth. Wind is also not available all the times. So in a national economy, we need to have what we normally refer to as base load generation. We need to have a stable supply of electric energy that is available all the times to keep the industries running. If we want to rely significantly on solar and the wind, then we will not achieve that. Right now, we are relying very heavily on the geothermal and the hydro for our baseload generation. But like I've said, very soon, we will run out of that. And don't forget that Kenya, as of now, does not utilize a lot of electricity. If we are to achieve our vision 2030 in terms of becoming a middle industrialized nation, then we will not have enough electric energy to power this country. Yeah.
Looking at it, you've shed some light into our nuclear power program, but it is a program that, again, as I mentioned before, seems like a new idea here in the country. Are we in contact with other countries that have done this? Where do we stand as a country in terms of international cooperation agreements?
Well, you see, the implementation of nuclear power projects or programs is a highly regulated sector. There is the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, which guides newcomer countries on how to go about setting up a nuclear power plant. And in setting up a nuclear power plant, it's not a question of going out there to make new discoveries. We are walking tested paths. We are going through what other countries have gone through, and this is a proven technology. Like, for example, right now there are about 440 operating nuclear power plants worldwide. So it is not a technology that was just discovered the other day. It has been in operation since the 1950s. So it is technology that is tested. It's a matter of figuring out exactly what capacity we require to put in place. Yeah.
You've spoken about power plants. As a country, we are still not yet there, but I think that particular plan is in the works, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Looking at it, some say it's costly, it's dangerous, and maybe its disadvantages tend to outweigh its advantages in terms of safety, in terms of the cost. What would be your comment in terms of its benefit to the taxpayer?
Well, you see, there are a lot of misunderstandings and half-truths about nuclear energy. In terms of safety record, I think nuclear power plants have got the highest safety records compared to all other energy sectors. The number of accidents that have been reported and the casualties are insignificant as compared to coal plants, even geothermal power plants. And so in terms of safety, yes, it is very important that nuclear power plants are designed to be safe. But you see, nuclear as it were, the fact that some of the byproducts of a nuclear power plant operation can be used to manufacture destructive bombs, it means it is a highly regulated field. And there are lots of safeguards that have been put in place to guide newcomer countries in implementing nuclear power programs.
Speaking of safeguards, these particular safeguards extend to legislation and laws. And maybe, Daktari, will you shed some light on the legislations that have been put in our laws regarding nuclear?
Well, you see, first and foremost, the most important thing from a national position is that we have to use nuclear energy in a safe manner. So there is legislation that has been put in place in Kenya, which created the Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Authority. So it is this authority that will license the nuclear power plant operators by ascertaining that the technologies they are bringing in and the power plants that they will put in place will meet certain safety standards. That is very, very paramount. Then second to that is a question of safeguards. Like I said earlier, nuclear material, if it falls in the wrong hands, it can be used for other destructive purposes. So there are very many protocols that have been put in place to make sure that the nuclear material, right from the time it is brought into the country and probably after use and its disposal, is something that is very highly regulated and well documented.
You quite optimistic that the path to realizing power generation from nuclear science is a realizable one. What will be the one thing that maybe, let's say 10 years from now, you'll look back and say, yes, we've achieved? Where do you see actually the entire nuclear sector in the country in 10 years?
Well, you see, according to the current plans, the path to implementing a nuclear power program normally starts with the country taking a national position. That means the country making an informed decision that we as Kenyans, we want to implement a nuclear power program. Once we've done that, then of course that has been done. The next thing is to put in place the various laws that will help us manage the nuclear technology and the nuclear power program. Then next to that is identification of potential sites where the nuclear power plants can be built, because not every place will be suitable for a nuclear power plant. For example, places with the, I would say, where earthquakes, which are prone to earthquakes, are not suitable for nuclear power plants. So there's a lot of work that goes into identifying the suitable sites, and in Kenya we've already got some potential sites, but we'll still conduct some research and investigation over the next 3 or 4 years to confirm that indeed those areas are safe for putting up a nuclear power plant.
Maybe within those 3-4 years, do you think that we'll have the manpower required? Because there's always a question, away from nuclear, looking at the construction of roads in the country, we've seen foreigners take a critical role. Maybe is that the same thing that is going to happen?
Well, you see, the construction and putting up of a nuclear power plant, of course, that will be given out to a vendor. And the vendors that build nuclear power plants, there are not very many currently in the world. There are just a handful of them. But once a nuclear power plant has been built and put up in place, the maintenance of that system is similar to, like, for example, a geothermal station, and we've got similar plants within the country which are being maintained. So there's no real magic about the maintenance of a nuclear power plant. Yeah, I mean, it's something that we are preparing for. We're training engineers, scientists, and when we get there, we'll also train enough technicians who will be able to maintain such a plant. Yeah.
Are you satisfied with your progress as NuPEA, especially comparing with other countries in the continent? Because looking at it, South Africa, I think, is the only country now that has begun to generate power from nuclear technology. Are you confident with where we are?
Well, of course, like I said, that the implementation of a nuclear power program is guided by the International Energy Agency. There are several milestones which we have to accomplish as we march towards implementing a nuclear power program. And the march towards this nuclear power plant, we are guided by the International Energy Agency, which carries out review missions from time to time to check and confirm that indeed we have developed the required capacity in terms of human resources and also in terms of preparing the infrastructures that are necessary.
Evidently, the next decade is a make or break moment for the Nuclear Power and Energy Agency. But just before we take a break, a lot more is lined up on the other end, including an interview with a queen in the country's nuclear energy sector, interesting facts about nuclear energy, what our young generation thinks about nuclear science, and the 5 ways nuclear science helps cancer patients. Welcome back.
Since time immemorial, women have played a crucial part in keeping the society's wheels moving. It is no different in the nuclear sector, where the impact of women cannot go unnoticed. But how easy or how difficult is it for women in nuclear, especially in the country? To understand that, we speak to Hilda Mpakanyi, a senior technical officer at the Nuclear Power and Energy Agency, to understand that, her experience, and especially the experience of women in nuclear industry. At this episode, she's our guest, but of course we are her guests at Akawi House Complex office. And without much ado, I'd like to introduce her. Thank you for making time for us.
Thank you.
I assume I got it right. You've and a few women have played a crucial role in the nuclear sector. Where did your love for nuclear come from? Why this field and not any other field? Keeping in mind that nuclear is not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah, thank you. Nuclear is a field that is diverse, and as much as most of the viewers may not maybe understand it, but we started learning nuclear way back from high school. We remember learning about radioactivity in chemistry and physics. And coming up to the university level, also in the science sector, we learned about maybe nuclear physics, nuclear chemistry, and these other the radioisotopes, which we all know we are using in the country. So my love for nuclear came from a love for sciences, which I learned about sciences. I loved sciences from way back in high school. Yeah.
You hold a Bachelor's of Science in Chemistry from the University of Nairobi. You hold a Master's in Nuclear Power Plant Engineering. How do you say your education and career path have led to where you are currently?
Yeah. When I was in high school, I didn't have maybe a clear path. of I was just studying so that I can be a better person in the future, but I didn't have a clear path. But I remember my chemistry teacher, one time he marked my exams, and it was a practical for chemistry. It was a mock. And, you know, I produced a marking scheme for him. He didn't believe it. So he called me in his office, asked me, what are your future plans? I told him, I'm not sure, but, and then he told me, you are a scientist. So just make sure you follow that path because you are in the right direction. And from then, I didn't look back. When I came to the university, okay, my parents wanted me to do something else, wanted me to be maybe do education, and then the world outside wanted also me to do something else, maybe to go into medicine. But I loved chemistry, and I went for my bachelor's degree in the University of Nairobi. I did my Bachelor of Science in chemistry, and then when I was employed at NuPEA, then it was a project committee, nuclear energy project committee. So we got opportunities, and I was asked to apply by our former executive chairman, Honorable Chilo Ayako. So he asked me to apply as a woman, and so that I can. It is not well represented. So that's when I went to Korea and did my master's in nuclear power plant engineering. And from then, I've been getting groomed and getting other additional skills, additional technical knowledge on top of what I got in the education.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your path has not been taken up by most women. In a room, you'll be singled out as one in a few of the women, especially at a discussion about nuclear power and nuclear energy. And actually, as at July 2020, according to the World Bank, the proportion of women who've taken up technical roles, and this also covers nuclear energy, is at 13% in the country. Why do you think, especially in the nuclear sector, there's that less female representation?
I would take it for the STEM programs in the country. So I think women are not they're not well represented in the STEM programs generally. And when it comes to choosing courses, we will look into the other programs. And these include arts and these other subjects. They are viewed to be a bit masculine. And this comes all the way even from primary. You see, my performance of girls in mathematics during my years, it wasn't very good. And if you would perform, others would look at you as if you are abnormal, because that's not what the society would want from you. And that's why when I wanted to take, I was asking my dad if I could take a course like even just mechanical engineering. He was thinking of his daughter going to work as a mechanic now, and she'll be sleeping down there, turning the nuts of the car. And he was like, no, those are for men. They're not for women. Look at easy things. So when I started doing chemistry, he was not sure of what I was doing, but he knew I was at the university. Okay, I was not doing engineering, but I was just doing something that is comfortable for women. So I think the STEM program have not been embraced so much by women, or maybe they are very few. And that's what has led to it. And the more we do it, the more we encourage women to come in, they will come in and seeing some role models and other people who've made it in the science sector.
Mm-hmm. You say this starts at its grassroots level, that is at primary school, up to even when you sit in board meetings. Are there instances where you find yourself the only lady, or sometimes one in a few? And do you think that a time would come when that number, as much as we say the future is female, do you think a time will come when that number will triple, be at par as that of men?
Yeah, that's an important question, and I have two instances. I've found myself alone in a group of people. First was in the class 6. I was the only girl among many men, and also when I went for a 6-week training it's called the Eastern Europe Research Reactor Initiative. I also found myself one among the 7 participants. Yeah, and then this one was also interesting because I was expectant. So I couldn't go to the reactor island, so they could do the video for me, and then I do it. So it's really happening, and we hope the future is coming to change, because nowadays the way we are bringing up kids, we are not telling them that now these are the roles of women and the roles of men. They have both roles. If it's to become an engineer, all of you can be engineer. And if it's to become a scientist, you can all become scientists. So the future is very bright. I think about at this time, I think we have maybe we've improved than the time our mothers were our age, because most of them were housewives. They are at home. So I think there's a time that it will come, and we've started hearing the outcry out there that the boy child is being neglected. Yeah, so we have to bring them together as children who have equal opportunities, and we have to make sure we shape their future together and empower these girls to move in to the sciences, engineering and mathematics, and also men to even move to the arts. I believe the arts is where women are dominating also. So we have to strike a balance.
As a noble girl decades ago at Ilchamus, did you anticipate that you'll be where you are? And did you anticipate the hurdles that you've managed to face and conquer over time? And what will you tell that little girl watching from your backyard, Ilchamus, who has still ambitions to progress as far as you've managed to progress?
Yeah, growing up, I didn't have, I can't lie that I was so focused. No, there were no role models for me to say, or I didn't know of any. I just knew my primary school teachers. I knew my dad was a chief, and chiefs were very powerful.
Indeed.
So what motivated my journey to be where I am today is that the force, even from the support from my parents, especially my dad, being a chief, he would tell me to be an example to the rest, because he can't be solving other people's problem while there's a problem in his home. We have to show by example. So, and for me, I'm a bit a coward, so I didn't want to be beaten. So I would do anything that will make my dad and my mom happy. So, and by doing that, I had that ability to work really hard and be where I am. And as I move on from primary school to high school, I realized there are even better teachers in high school than primary. So my focus kept on changing. And when I come to the university, I realized, there are even other opportunities out there. We're not bound by what we see in our surroundings. So what I would want to tell the young girls from minority groups, and not necessarily from Ilchamus, but from all the other minority groups, is that there are opportunities out there that we should go for and pursue whatever you feel like you believe in. And there are challenges to success. Any success comes with a lot of challenges, but you have to intentionally choose the path you are taking. Like you are told that maybe you're supposed to get you are being prepared for marriage. You can choose not to look for that, but pursue things that will make you go to the right direction and achieve your dreams. Be bold, and you will eventually succeed, because if I made it, why not you?
There has been affirmative actions, not only in the energy sector, but in other sectors, to ensure that more women take up roles, leadership roles in this case, in such sectors. What would you say your organization in particular has put in place to mentor future women leaders from the group of women who want to go to that level?
Yeah, I would say that our organization recognizes the importance of women in leadership, and even our management, there are a number of women in our management, and those that in the senior, that is in the senior management, and those of us who are still at the technical level, we are still being groomed. And one of them is being trained, the scholarship I got to go to South Korea to study nuclear power plant engineering. Yeah, it was a bit, it was not as easy, because the first time the call for applications came, I was asked now to apply, but I didn't, because I was expecting my first daughter. I joined nuclear when I was just newlywed. Yeah, I finished honeymoon here. So yeah, so when I was told to apply, I was expecting, and the dates that I was supposed to report was coinciding with the due date. So I went to the executive chairman and asked him that I will not apply, and he was, I want to empower women. Why are you not applying? So I had to explain my case, and he understood. The next year, when the calls of application came in, I had no reason not to apply. I applied when I was doing my application. My daughter was 6 months old. So, and when I was supposed to go immediately after her birthday, first birthday, I was on plane to South Korea, and that has been like it is now like an initiative. We have to include women in everything, like the grooming, they give, attending these senior management courses. It's now meant for everyone, and it's a very fair organization that there's no time I felt like I'm being despised because I'm a woman. So for few stereotypes there, here and there, but generally, if I have an opinion, I can air it, and it will not be viewed like, now you are a woman, or you are what. No, it will be given that fair view. Yes.
They say nuclear is the next big thing locally, in as much as it's clouded in a lot of myths and misconceptions. But someone out there would want to advance their careers in the sector that you are currently. What would be the one piece of advice you would give them?
Yeah, I would tell them that nuclear is diverse. Nuclear is one-stop shop for everyone, not only scientists, not only engineers. We also need economists, financial analysts, we need lawyers, we need communication people, and we need everybody besides the engineer. Why we emphasize maybe engineering and sciences? Because they are not so much enhanced. The courses in the engineering that maybe they are not so much enhanced like the others. That's why we're not empowering people to take economics, because that one is universal and we have the right numbers. So nuclear is a field that anyone can explore, and you can get whatever you want in nuclear. And nuclear is not about bombs. It's what we are pursuing is peaceful nuclear, peaceful application of nuclear energy. We have 2 programs in the country. One is the nuclear power program, and another one is the research reactor program. And the research reactor program is not about power. Its research reactor is a neutron source that can be used for other applications, including education, neutron activation analysis, material testing, radioisotope production for our various uses in medicine and industry, in the industries. So it has diverse. It is so diverse, and it calls on everybody to be here. So anyone can pursue a course, or can have an opportunity in nuclear.
Yeah. My final question, which I know you really tried to avoid, but we have to get to this one question. I know there must be people who look up to you has Hilda. But of course, who is that one or two people who you personally look up to?
Yeah, I said this is a hard question because I don't know why you would want to choose this and not the other. But for me, I consider that person who is all-rounded, and has an impact in your life, and has impacted the way you are today. And for me, yeah, I'm a daughter, I'm a daughter-in-law, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm an officer here. So you would want someone who would be able to nurture you all-rounded. And the woman I admire so much is my mom. This lady came from a different tribe, landed in El Chamus, and lived there as if that was her home, and took care of us, and even with the difficulties and many challenges that we've gone through in life, she was there to support us and instill good values in us. And that's why, yeah, I'm always doing the right thing at the right time, mostly because not that I'm forced to do it, but it's my way of life. Yeah. So I also appreciate other people who have impacted my life, as like my former director I worked for an NGO immediately after campus.
Yes.
My former director there was called, and is currently still the director, Masheti Masinjila. Yeah, he's someone who's, when a scientist in school, we are usually in the lab coats, and then we are in these beakers and the conical flasks, mixing, titration, doing many things. So we don't interact with people. And when I went to this collaborative Center for Gender and Development, it was a different world, everything was different from how scientists should do. And I learned how to deal with people, learning about how to be emotionally intelligent, and then also understanding that, yeah, there are people who know better than you. You are not always the best. So I thank him for the guidance that he gave me. I moved from there. It was hard even for me to move from there to come to nuclear. I was feeling like now I'm so comfortable. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well put.
And also my boss. My boss is also a good lady. Yeah, she has really motivated me to take up even some roles that I usually feel like, no, maybe I'm inadequate, but no, you have to do this. So, and she makes sure you get what you really want to do the work.
Words of motivation and resilience right there. On our Did You Know segment today, we compare the capacity factor of nuclear energy and other energy sources. Take a look. Did you know that nuclear energy has by far the highest capacity factor than any other energy source? According to a study by the US Energy Information Administration for the year 2020, nuclear power plants produced a maximum power of more than 93% of the time during the year. Geothermal produced a maximum power of 74% during that period, natural gas 57%, hydropower 42%, coal 40%, wind 35%, and solar 25%. That's about 1.5 to 2 times more than natural gas and coal units, and 2.5 to 3.5 times more reliable than wind and solar plants. Well, now you know. Indeed, now you know which energy source is more reliable and efficient. We switch gears to yet another segment, My View, where we feature essays written by learners in our institutions on what they know and think about nuclear science.
Hello, my name is Barki Mahsen. I am a student at Matuga Girls High School in Kwale County and the secondary school level winner of the 2020 NuPEA essay contest. My winning essay was about how nuclear electricity would contribute to economic development in the country. My view, as it stands, the energy currently being generated in the country from other sources could not be enough in the coming years to sustain the rising demand for electricity. Therefore, another source of electricity is long overdue for the generation of more electrical energy to plug the gap and ultimately boost the country economically. That source is nuclear electricity. I believe that besides power generation, there will be other benefits that the country will reap from nuclear electricity. This is because nuclear energy is cost competitive. It provides a stable base load of energy and has no carbon emissions, which are a major cause of global warming. Further, nuclear power plants operate at record high capacity factors, thus making nuclear electricity reliable. These nuclear power plants will be a source of employment to many with relevant skills, uplift their living standards, and at the same time, since they are taxpayers, contribute to the country's tax base. A single plant, however costly to construct, will replace tens of other power plants, thus paving the way for the government to redirect the resources meant for the latter elsewhere. Well, there have been devastating nuclear accidents in the past. The risks associated with nuclear electricity have been gradually declining, with disasters such as Fukushima and Chernobyl painful but valuable lessons. It is less likely they will ever occur again.
Finally, our International Atomic Energy Agency video of the day. That informative video brings us to the end of our first episode of our nuclear series. We have 9 more episodes in store for you. You cannot wait to see what they have to offer. Remember, you can always keep the conversation going on our social media platforms, that is TV47 Kenya on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. This episode has been powered by the Nuclear Power and Energy Agency. Till next time.